She walked in wearing a plain blazer and flat shoes. No driver, no security, no name tag. He threw a wet rag at her chest and told her the floor needed mopping. That was the only reason someone like her walked through his doors. He was wrong about everything. Subscribe. You need to see how this ends. Maya Renee Johnson woke at 5 in the morning without an alarm. She never needed one. The house was quiet, a modest brick townhouse on a narrow street in 3rd Ward, Charlotte. The kind of neighborhood where people still left porch lights on for each other. She poured black coffee into a chipped ceramic mug and stood at the kitchen counter, tablet glowing in the early dark, reading numbers she had already read 3 times, employee satisfaction scores, turnover rates, internal complaint logs. Harlow Grand, her flagship property on Magnolia Avenue, 24 floors of glass and granite in the heart of downtown Charlotte, was bleeding. Staff turnover among black employees had surged 220% in 20 months. 4 formal discrimination complaints had been filed. All 4 dismissed. Insufficient evidence every time, and everyone filed by a black employee. Maya set the mug down. She looked at the wall. A black and white photograph hung there in a simple wooden frame. Her grandmother, Ruth Johnson, in a hotel uniform, pushing a linen cart down a long, empty hallway. Ruth had worked in hospitality for 31 years, cleaning rooms in buildings where she was not permitted to use the front entrance. In 1981, she was fired, not for poor performance, not for any violation, but because she had dared to file a complaint about how black employees were being treated. That hotel had changed names twice since then. Maya had bought it 12 years ago, quietly, no press release. She hadn't bought it for the revenue. She had bought it because some debts are not financial. Beside the photograph hung a small handwritten note in Maya's own hand. They wouldn't let her through the front door, but they will have to open it for you. She pulled on a plain navy blazer, flat shoes, no jewelry, no designer label. She wanted to look like exactly what a man like Derek Whitmore would dismiss without a second thought. The Harlow Grand sat on Magnolia Avenue like a declaration. The lobby smelled of white gardenias and leather. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling like frozen rain. Soft jazz drifted from hidden speakers. Everything about the place whispered money. But if you watched closely, really closely, you would see something else. You would see James Carter, a black bellhop, flinch almost imperceptibly every time he heard a supervisor's footsteps. You would see Sandra Ellis push her housekeeping cart with her gaze fixed on the floor, moving like a woman who had learned that invisibility was safer than being seen. The white staff laughed freely and leaned against counters. It was managed. Derek Whitmore arrived at 7:45, checked his reflection in the rearview mirror, and walked through the front entrance like a man who had never once questioned whether the world belonged to him. He ran the morning huddle in the service hallway. He pointed to the white staff first, Webb at front desk, Brennan at concierge, Pierce in guest relations. Then he turned to the rest. Ellis, housekeeping, Rivera, laundry, Carter, kitchen prep, every morning. Same pattern, 20 months without exception. Sandra Ellis had earned the highest guest satisfaction scores on her floor and had been promoted to guest services 6 weeks ago. This morning, Whitmore looked at her and said flatly, "Ellis, back to housekeeping. Starting today." She opened her mouth. "Sir, I was assigned to guest. Presentation matters," he said. "Our guests expect a certain standard." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Every person in that hallway understood exactly what he meant. Sandra picked up her cart and disappeared down the corridor. Her face did not crumble. She had learned not to let it. Maya stepped out of a yellow cab on Magnolia Avenue at 11:50, the kind that pulled away before she reached the curb. She stood still for a moment and looked up at the Harlow Grand. A doorman in a black wool coat was holding the door open for a white couple carrying matching shopping bags, smiling warmly, saying, "Welcome back, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison." Maya walked toward the same door. The smile vanished. The doorman's eyes passed over her the way eyes pass over furniture. Registering her presence without acknowledging it, he did not hold the door. He looked past her as though she had no more claim to a greeting than the concrete beneath her feet. Maya pulled the door open herself and stepped inside. She stood just inside the entrance and paused, not because she was uncertain, but because she was watching. To her left, a white woman in workout clothes crossed the lobby with a smoothie. No one stopped her. To her right, a supervisor passed James Carter, hauling 3 oversized suitcases and snapped, "Pick up the pace, Carter." Guests are waiting without breaking stride. Maya filed it away. She walked to the front desk. Marcus Webb, 24 years old, uniform pressed, name tag perfectly centered, looked up and produced a smile he had trained until it no longer reached his eyes. "Good afternoon. Checking in?" "No. I have some questions about how this hotel operates. Staffing structure, shift assignments, employee conditions. Something flickered behind Marcus's eyes, a door opening half an inch, then shutting fast. He reached for the radio and hesitated. Can I ask what it's regarding? Operations, she said simply. He pressed the button. Mr. Whitmore, there's a visitor asking about operations. She didn't give a name. A pause, a sigh loud enough to carry through the static. I'm coming down. Marcus set the radio down and looked at the counter rather than at her. Then, barely above a whisper, good luck. Maya heard it. She did not respond, but she filed it away alongside everything else. The elevator doors opened and Derek Whitmore stepped out. He walked the way men walk when no one in their world has ever pushed back, shoulders wide, chin lifted, each step a small deliberate claim. He saw Maya at the front desk. A black woman, no luggage, no designer bag, no visible reason by his calculation to be standing in his lobby. He did not say hello. Can I help you? It was a wall. I'd like to talk about how this hotel operates, Maya said. Staffing structure, shift assignments, how employee complaints are handled. Derek's eyebrows rose slowly, then fell. The particular amusement of a man accustomed to looking down settled across his face. And you are? Someone here to ask questions. He crossed his arms. We don't take walk-ins, especially not. He stopped himself, smiled. Especially not without an appointment. The words he swallowed hung in the air. Especially not what? Maya asked. Without an appointment, he said. He stepped closer and reached past her. Grabbing a damp rag from a nearby housekeeping cart, he threw it directly at her chest. The wet fabric landed with a soft, flat sound against her blazer and dropped to the marble floor. If you want to be useful here, that floor over there needs mopping. That is the only reason people like you walk through those doors. Maya looked down at the stain on her blazer. Then she looked up at him. What is your full name? He laughed, a laugh that echoed off the marble. Derek Whitmore. And I suggest you remember it on your way out. He turned to Marcus. Webb, call security. Kevin Marsh arrived in under 2 minutes. He looked at Maya first, standing exactly as she had been, arms at her sides, face composed, the least threatening person in the building. Derek spoke before Kevin could. She's not a guest. Has no appointment. She's demanding confidential documents and refusing to leave. I want her removed. Kevin looked at Maya carefully. Ma'am, is there a problem? No problem, she said. I asked reasonable questions, and now I'm being removed because he doesn't like the questions or the person asking them. Derek pulled out his own phone and dialed 911 before Kevin could respond. I'd like to report a trespassing individual at the Harlow Grand. A black female, mid-40s, refusing to leave, behaving aggressively, making staff and guests feel unsafe. He hung up. Kevin heard every word. Something shifted in his expression. Quiet, invisible to most, but real. 2 patrol cars arrived in 8 minutes. Officer Torres came in first, calm and deliberate. Officer Blake followed close behind, jaw set. A man who arrived at conclusions before gathering evidence. Torres walked to Maya. Ma'am, can I see some identification? She produced her license without a word. Torres read it. Can you tell me why you're here? I walked through the front entrance of a public hotel lobby, asked questions, raised my voice 0 times, and touched no one. She's lying, Derek said. Ask my front desk clerk. Torres looked at Marcus. Sir, did this woman behave aggressively? Marcus's eyes moved to Derek. The look Derek gave him back was unmistakable. A silent command wrapped in a warning. Marcus looked down at the counter, then up at Torres. She was calm, he said quietly. She just asked questions. Derek's neck flushed red. Blake stepped toward Maya and closed his hand around her elbow. Not a grab, a grip. Maya looked down at his hand, then up at him. You're going to want to let go. I'm cooperating. I'm not resisting. And you are placing your hands on me while cameras record from 4 angles. She looked up at the security cameras in the corners, red lights blinking. And those aren't the only ones recording right now. Blake looked out across the lobby. A guest near the elevator had her phone up, and through the barely open service corridor door, a pair of hands holding a phone pointed directly at them. Blake released her arm. He did not apologize. The lobby had gone quiet in the way public spaces go quiet when something is happening that no one wants to name. The jazz kept playing from the hidden speakers, smooth and warm and completely absurd against the tension filling the room. Then Sandra Ellis came through the service corridor door, carrying a stack of perfectly folded white towels for the guest in room 814, who had been waiting 30 minutes. The service elevator on the east wing had been out since morning. The only way up was through the main lobby. She kept her head down, steps quick, moving the route that kept her as close to the walls as possible, as invisible as the building would allow. Derek saw her. He was backed into a corner, 2 officers no longer moving the way he expected. A woman who had not broken the way she was supposed to, a lobby full of recording phones, and so he turned toward the easiest target within reach. Ellis. Sandra stopped. The stack of towels trembled almost imperceptibly in her arms. What are you doing on the main floor? Housekeeping does not cross this lobby during peak hours. Sir, the guest in 8 and 14 requested towels 30 minutes ago. I didn't ask for an explanation. His voice dropped lower instead of rising, the controlled quiet of a man who has never needed to shout because no one has ever stopped him. 3 years and you still don't understand where you belong. You are not smart enough for guest services, and you cannot even follow a basic instruction about which hallways you are permitted to use. He stepped toward her, not close enough to touch, just close enough to make the space between them feel dangerous. Put those down. Go back downstairs. Write a statement explaining your protocol violation. If I'm not satisfied, you're done here today. And I will personally make sure you do not find work in another hotel in this city. Sandra set the towels down. She turned and walked toward the service door. Her shoes made a small, soft sound on the marble, the only sound in the room. A single tear ran down her cheek. She wiped it with her shoulder, without stopping, without turning around. The lobby was completely silent. Maya had seen this hallway before. Different decade. Same woman with the cart. Same room full of people who did not move. A black SUV pulled up to the curb outside. Maya did not turn to look at it, but something in the way she held herself shifted. The almost invisible change of a chess player who has just placed the final piece. Patricia Haynes walked through the front doors in a charcoal suit that made rooms rearrange themselves around her. She crossed the lobby in a straight line, briefcase in her left hand, red folder in her right, without glancing at Derek, without acknowledging the officers. She stopped in front of Maya, opened the briefcase. One quiet nod between them. No words needed. Derek stared. Who are you? Patricia did not look at him. She handed a business card to Torres. Torres read it. His lips parted slightly. His eyes moved from the card to Maya, then back to the card. He turned to Blake and said just above a whisper, "Stand down." Blake frowned. What? Torres did not repeat himself. He stepped back, hands away from his belt, shoulders settling. The posture of a man who had just understood which side of the room he was on. Derek saw it. The smugness drained from his face slowly. The way color leaves a face before a person loses consciousness. Maya opened the folder. Inside, a corporate ownership charter. At the top in clean black type, Harlow Meridian Group, Property Ownership Registry. Below that, a name, Maya Renee Johnson, CEO and Managing Partner. She held it up, not high, not theatrical, just enough for Derek to read. His eyes landed on the letterhead. On the name, his mouth opened. Nothing came out. Maya spoke without raising her voice. The lobby was already quiet enough. Mr. Whitmore, my name is Maya Renee Johnson. I am the CEO and founder of Harlow Meridian Group, the parent company that owns this hotel and 15 others. I approved the renovation budget you overspent last quarter. I signed the staffing expansion you requested in February. And every 2 weeks when you deposit your paycheck, my authorization is on that transaction. She lowered the document and looked at him directly. I am the woman you just threw a dirty rag at and told to go mop your floors. The silence that followed was a different species from what had come before. Not discomfort, detonation. Derek's face had drained completely, all at once, like something behind his eyes had been switched off. What remained was gray and hollow, the face of a man watching the entire architecture of his certainty collapse. His lips moved. Fragments came out. Not sentences. Not defenses. Just the sounds a person makes when the story they have been telling themselves stops holding together. Maya did not wait. In the past 20 months, 4 black employees at this property filed formal discrimination complaints. All 4 were closed. Insufficient evidence. Every time. Your name appears on every dismissal memo, not as a witness, as the subject. She turned to the next page. You told me you don't see color. But the shift assignment software in this hotel contains a hidden classification system routing black employees into overnight, holiday, and weekend shifts at twice the rate of their white colleagues for at least 4 years. Someone created that system, Mr. Whitmore. His jaw worked silently. I came here today to see for myself whether those complaints had merit. No announcement, no name tag, no security. I wanted to see what happens in this building when no one important is watching. Her voice did not waver. Not once. I saw a doorman refuse to hold a door for me. I saw you throw a rag at my face. I heard you call the police and describe me as aggressive while I stood motionless with my arms at my sides. I watched an officer put his hands on me because you lied. And then I watched you publicly humiliate a woman in front of her colleagues, her guests, and those cameras for the crime of delivering towels to a guest. She paused, looked toward the service corridor, then back at him. You didn't just disrespect me. You showed every person in this lobby exactly how you run this building. Patricia stepped forward. Your 911 call, combined with this hotel's security footage and the officer's body cameras, will be referred to the Mecklenburg County District Attorney. Describing a stationary woman as aggressive constitutes filing a false police report under North Carolina law. A pause. I would strongly recommend retaining an attorney. Patricia reached into the briefcase one final time and removed a single document, clean white paper, 2 signatures at the bottom. Maya Renee Johnson, CEO. Rachel Simmons, VP of Human Resources. A termination letter. She set it on the counter in front of Derek. The decision had been authorized by the board at 8 that morning, before Maya had stepped into a single cab. She did not hand it to him. She placed it the way you place something on a grave. Derek stared at his name typed neatly at the top. His title, Regional Operations Director, already belonged to the past. When he finally spoke, it was not the voice that had filled this lobby all morning. That voice had been armored. This one was just a man. 9 years, he said. Everything here, the reviews, the occupancy numbers, the renovation, that was all me. And the discrimination complaints were all you too, Maya said. Both things are true. Those were misunderstandings. I don't see color. I treated everyone the same. You threw a rag at my face, Mr. Whitmore. His mouth opened, closed. I didn't know who you, so you treated me like I was nothing, she said. That is not a defense. That is a confession. His voice cracked. Demote me. Transfer me. I'll apologize to every employee personally. Please, not in front of everyone. I have a family. My daughter starts college next year. Sandra Ellis has a family too, Maya said quietly. Single mother, 2 kids, works double shifts 3 times a week. And you humiliated her in front of this entire lobby. She looked at him for a long moment. You're not afraid because you were wrong. You're afraid because now people can see that you were wrong. That is not remorse, Mr. Whitmore. That is fear. And they are not the same thing. Derek picked up the letter, folded it once, and slid it into his jacket pocket. He walked toward the elevator without speaking. Kevin Marsh fell into step beside him, not guiding, not touching, just walking. The way you walk beside someone at a funeral. The elevator doors opened. Derek stepped inside and turned around. His eyes found Maya across the lobby. She was already looking somewhere else. The doors closed. The jazz kept playing. Maya turned to face the staff, the people standing in doorways, behind counters, at the edges of the room. What happened here today should never have happened. Not to me. Not to Sandra. Not to any of you. Every buried complaint will be reopened. Every shift assignment will be audited. She looked toward the service corridor. Someone find Sandra Ellis. Tell her she is not being reinstated, she is being promoted. Effective now. James Carter started clapping first, then one more, then the whole lobby. A guest near the elevator, later identified only as a Charlotte resident who had witnessed the full exchange, posted the video at 3:47 that afternoon. Patricia Haynes had already secured copies of all 4 security camera feeds before it went live. By midnight, 1.5 million views. By morning, 5 million. The independent investigation returned preliminary findings in 12 days, worse than anyone expected. The B-tier classification system had operated for at least 4 years, embedded within a third-party scheduling platform whose audit logs had never been flagged for corporate review. Of 17 promotion recommendations Derek had made, 15 went to white employees. Sandra Ellis's file was the most damning. 4 consecutive months of outstanding guest reviews, followed by a rating of needs improvement and an immediate demotion, signed by Derek Whitmore. 11 former employees came forward, including Darius Cole Sr., a kitchen worker whose complaint had been buried 8 months before. He had left the hotel industry entirely after his dismissal. He came back for the deposition. The class action, filed within weeks of the investigation, settled 14 months later for $2.2 million. Derek pleaded no contest to filing a false police report, 6 months probation, 250 hours of community service, a permanent criminal record. His career in hospitality was finished. Officer Blake received a formal reprimand from the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office and was required to complete bias awareness training following a review of body camera footage. Officer Torres submitted a commendation report. Sandra Ellis became guest relations manager for the entire hotel, not as a gesture, but because she earned it. Marcus Webb was placed on the fast-track management program. 6 months later, having led his team through the hotel's highest-rated quarter on record, he became the youngest front desk supervisor in the hotel's history. Kevin Marsh, who had stepped forward without being compelled and submitted a detailed written account of everything he had witnessed that day, was invited to co-develop a training program called The Responsibility of Witnessing alongside the corporate HR team. It would eventually roll out across all 16 properties. The first recipient of the Ruth Johnson Scholarship Fund was a 19-year-old named Darius Cole Jr., the son of the kitchen employee whose complaint had been buried 8 months before. Maya signed the award letter without a word. In her new office on the 20th floor, she hung the black and white photograph of Ruth Johnson beside a photo of Darius Cole Jr. holding his acceptance letter. The old handwritten note remained on the wall. They wouldn't let her through the front door, but they will have to open it for you. Below it, in different ink, a second line, written the morning she moved in. The door is open. Now hold it open for the one behind you. If this story hit something in you, drop a like and subscribe so you never miss the next one. Tell me in the comments which moment got you the most and where in the world are you watching from.